afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our third session, Peer Talk, of Be Smart, Don't Start. So these are just a few quick rules for WebEx. This session will be recorded, and we do encourage that you guys keep your cameras on. If you want to use a virtual background, please feel free to. And be sure to have your microphones muted so that there's no background noise when people are talking. And use the hand raise option for questions or the chat.
I'll start out. My name is Tristan Gambito. I am a junior at Princess Anne High School. I am the MYLA secretary. I've been in MYLA for about 2 years now, and I am part of the Parks and Rec and CHKD commission. So this is our first fun, not so fun fact of the day. In 2020, 4.7% of middle schoolers had used an e-cigarette. In addition to that, 19.6% of high schoolers had used an e-cigarette.
Okay, so now we're gonna show a short video that has some of the topics that we learned in the past two sessions. So in case some of you couldn't attend to those sessions, or in case that you want to refresh a little bit of the information we talk about the dangers and the symptoms of vaping.
We have been talking vaping with Dr. Eric Hamburger, Meredith Berkman, and her son, Caleb. And we've been talking about the epidemic. And Dr. Hamburger, to get back to you, why is vaping so bad for a teenager's lungs?
We used to think that lungs stop developing in early childhood. We're now learning that lungs develop from the time you are a fetus to the time you are an adult. So nicotine in e-cigarettes specifically affects everything from lung function to the ability to fight disease. We're finding that nicotine in e-liquids actually, as we're showing in this graphic, can actually have an effect on the alveoli, the air sacs at the end of the lungs, to resemble something like emphysema in mice. So very large air sacs with a diminished surface area, less area for gas exchange like oxygen and carbon dioxide.
And would it be fair to say, since we have such limited data, that we have no idea how much long-term damage teenagers are doing?
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of e-cigarette companies are kind of banking on that. You know, a lot of the bigger brand companies will say, well, it doesn't cause cancer because there haven't been any cases of cancer. Well, they've only been around for about 10 or 12 years. It doesn't mean that we won't see cancer. What we do know is that they cause, as with this current epidemic, they can cause very serious and irreversible lung damage, something called acute respiratory distress syndrome. It's caused hospitalizations, respiratory failure, in hundreds of young adults and teenagers around the country. There was a recent case where I work at UCLA where a child was vaping a cannabis derivative and ended up being hospitalized for about a week. So to say that these are safe or that they don't cause long-term damage, the science argues against it.
Yeah, I know at this point a lot of parents are saying, oh my gosh, I wonder if my child is vaping. What are some signs and symptoms parents can look out for?
I like to think about this in kind of three different categories. So there are the most common are the behavioral side effects of nicotine. So the irritability, behavioral changes, kind of difficulty concentrating, interrupted sleep. There are, of course, the respiratory side effects. So cough, dry cough is probably the most common symptom. Shortness of breath. Anecdotally, I've heard of mothers complaining about their children's exercise tolerance going down. And there's kind of the common sense signs, the things that I mentioned earlier, like if your child is carrying around a USB device, or if they start to smell a certain way, if they're going to the bathroom a lot. Those are things to look out for.
Here is our another fun but not so fun fact of the day. So in 2020, 38.9% of high schoolers used an e-cigarette product regularly, and in specific, that means that they had used an e-cigarette product for the last 20 of the 30 days. And in 2020, 22.5% of high schoolers had used an e-cigarette daily the past 30 days.
Now we're going to be showing you a video that's actually a case that happened here in Virginia Beach. I know that a lot of you are from this area, from Hampton Roads. So, so I'm going to be showing you what happened to a young person in here.
The national vaping crisis is hitting home. A Virginia Beach native is just one of the hundreds of patients dealing with the effects of smoking vitamin E.
13 News Now reporter Adriana de Alba spoke with her this afternoon and shares her message tonight.
These pictures of 21-year-old Brooke Zimmerly show the terrifying moments she went through last week, hospitalized with machines helping her breathe and hooked to IVs, eventually in the ICU for 5 days. Doctors told her she suffered a vaping-related lung injury.
I mean, I just had every symptom. I had the vomiting, the cloudy lungs.
Have you ever been that sick in your life?
No, never.
Doctors told Zimmerly that chemicals from THC, like vitamin E acetate, caused the lung injury. These are her chest x-rays, the one on the left from her first visit to the hospital, and the one on the right shows a much hazier picture after just a few days, something doctors told her is not normal.
It really looked like someone photoshopped clouds in replacement of my lungs.
This month, the Centers for Disease Control identified vitamin E acetate as the possible culprit in the recent string of vaping-related illnesses and deaths. The JMU student could have been one of them.
When I was in the ICU, my mom told me today they told her to go ahead and maybe talk to a chaplain because they didn't know if I was going to make it or not. It was really hard because I couldn't see my son for a week, and that was the hardest thing, is like not knowing if I was going to come home to see my son. Sorry.
It's okay.
Doctors expect her to make a full recovery. Now she's sharing her story with friends on social media, hoping her experience will encourage others to stop vaping.
2 weeks ago, I saw this all in the news and you couldn't convince me to put down my Juul. I should have listened because it's crazy.
Now, grateful to be alive, every breath she takes is a blessing. Adriana de Alba, 13 News Now.
Are some tips to quit vaping. One is to identify some alternative coping skills. 2, talk to your parents and loved ones about it. 3, get rid of your vaping products. 4, practice quitting by doing a test run, like a day or 2 at a time, so you get used to it. And 5, search online resources. I know we have a whole bunch of resources that will be shown later on at the end of this slide. So we can welcome our speakers. Please give them your full attention. Miss Patricia and Mr. Dennis Southers.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, or just good early evening. I am the Patricia of the Patricia and Dennis group here, and we both are with the Department of Human Services in the city of Virginia Beach, and we're excited to be here with you all today. You know, this is such a great event, and great job, ladies. I just love being a part of an event like this, where you're able to increase your knowledge on different substances and how it can be harming your body. And with that specific focus on one of the methods as far as using substances, it's I would put on the top of the level of importance since it's so popular nowadays, right? I'm going to give an opportunity for Dennis to just kind of introduce himself, and then he'll throw it back on over to me, and we'll dive right on in.
Well, good evening. I'm Dennis Southers. If you guys know technology, then you're probably ahead of me. But I did unmute myself, and I'm saying hello, and I appreciate Patricia taking us through this.
Awesome. Well, fun fact about me, and you can go to the next slide, Annie. Fun fact about me is that I am a native here, so born and raised in the Hampton Roads area. And I attended Princess Anne, so it's nice to see another Princess Anner here. And you know, I've got a background in biology, and then I have gone back and studied counseling. And so that's kind of what my degrees look like. And what I do during the day is I really have the opportunity to be educating different groups of people about different substances. And so I'm actually the coordinator of the Substance Abuse Intervention Program, which is actually a partnership here with the schools and Department of Human Services. And if you have not seen me, that would probably be a good thing, because you would normally come to see me if you are in violation of the zero tolerance policy at your schools, right? And one of the things that we see the most, if you will, as far as something that gets someone in trouble, it's the use of e-cigarettes, right? And vaping devices. And so if you've been a part of this program for the last couple of sessions, then you would have gotten more detailed information about the use of e-cigarettes and how there's been this picture painted about how much healthier it is or how much safer it is than cigarettes. But, you know, the takeaway here is that it's unsafe for all involved, whether it be kids, teens, and adults, right? One of the clear things to remember when you're taking something away from this is just kind of think about who is running the e-cigarette companies, right? In my program, this is actually one of the topics we talk about extensively. And a lot of times I hear from your peers and people in your age group that, you know, you probably wouldn't mess with cigarettes too much, right? It's not hard to say no if someone were to offer you a cigarette. You're like, we clearly know that it is bad for your health. There are not a lot of people who are saying, no, really, cigarettes are good for you. Go ahead and try it, right? We've already gotten past that point. But imagine there was a time where cigarettes did have the same reputation as vaping does now, where it's high in popularity. There was very little information on it. And a lot of times people thought it was okay for you, and it actually boosts you in a positive way, right? Making you look more sophisticated. You could have pictures of pregnant mothers with their cigarette in hand, their martini in another hand, and their big pregnant belly as they're sitting at the bar, right? And if I were to say that to you all now, I'm sure you all would be like, are you insane? Why would you be doing that, right? Because we know now that both cigarettes and alcohol can be harmful to a pregnant woman, right? Pregnant mother. And so it's the same thing. If you look at kind of the evolution of substances here, is something is high in popularity, and the people in charge of it, or those who are making money from it, really capitalize on it when it's popular, right? And so they're not going to say, hey, go ahead and use this. You're probably going to end up with some lung issues a little later, but don't even worry about that. Just take a puff, right? And so the misconception here is that e-cigarettes are safer, they're healthier. And the thing is that there wasn't a lot of research done on it when all of those things were being said. And unfortunately, it usually takes some trial and error before we get the hint that something is not the best for us, right? So you saw the same thing with cigarettes, and there's the same thing here with e-cigarettes. And I actually commend you all, because by being here today, you're actually gaining some knowledge on a topic that is very popular amongst your age group and very prevalent amongst you all, and something that you can easily get your hands on. And I'll just give you all another hint. It's not a coincidence that it's very easy for you to get your hands on a vape, okay? So any type of vape. So if you're like, oh, this is just too easy, let me just tell you there's a little bit of help there, okay? So there have been laws that are put in place and different agreements and, you know, regulations that are put in place. But, you know, if you really want to break a rule, you can break a rule, right? We have jails and prisons and people in principals' offices for that. There are regular people that break rules every day. And there was one of the educational videos I was watching. I always like to cite my sources. I can't remember what the video is called, but it's not a Crumb Run original, so just know that, right? But one of the things I was watching said that they are going to keep, they meaning different companies, if they're selling you something, they're going to keep lying to you until it's illegal to lie to you, right? And so just kind of keep that phrase in mind when you think of any advertisements or things that you've seen regarding the use of e-cigarettes, okay? And then you may have dabbled in with speaking about smoking alcohol, which I hope was the first time you've ever heard anything about smoking alcohol. That if you look at the study of substances, things kind of ebb and flow, right? They're high in popularity and then they kind of dwindle out. They may return to be high in popularity. So for those who may be drinking, clearly in our society, drinking is a big thing, right? We celebrate everything, and there's a beverage that may be involved. You can go to sports events, you may be able to find it right at home, right? And there are specific regulations put in place with respect to alcohol and drinking and things like that. And I know you all know that you have to be 21 and up, but smoking alcohol is something that has not had the same reputation, right? So the major danger here is not knowing how much alcohol you're actually putting into your body, right? So you can find literally anything on the internet, and looking up how things are done and the effects of it, more emphasis on the effects, really can help you as far as making an educated decision on some of the things that you may be looking into, right? Now, smoking alcohol for the most part is something that a lot of folks are saying, no, thank you, right? That's not worth my time or effort or things to look up. And it's not something that's often offered nowadays. But the thing is the way we ingest alcohol, we meaning those who are 21 and up, right? The way the alcohol drinkers ingest alcohol is through your digestive system, right? And that's actually your body's defense against having too much alcohol in your system. So if there is too much, you can either, forgive me for being so, there's no other word for it, so you can either vomit it up, okay? Or if you have to go to the hospital, they may give you extra fluids, pump your stomach, things like that. But the bottom line is they're able to get the substance out of your body. When you're inhaling it, it doesn't go through your digestive system, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, you're inhaling it, so it's actually hurting your lungs. That is true, but it also goes straight up to your brain, right? And so there isn't a way for doctors to be able to help in a situation like that. So essentially, everyone's in a situation where there is something in someone's body that no one can do anything about, no matter how many degrees you have, right? And so if that doesn't scream dangerous, I'm not sure what else does. But I have to give it to your generation and to your age group as far as you and your peers. Being health conscious is one of the things that's really associated with you all, which is amazing, right? And with that, there's a lot of hands up as far as saying no to something. I just said hands up, meaning like, nah, just go somewhere else with that. Not hands up like me. I want to try it, please, just for clarification, right? So a lot of hands up, like stop there. No, thank you. That's not for me. Do you know what that does to your body, right? So that is kudos to that generation here. And then lastly, THC in general. So that last group, we also talked about vaping THC, and THC, it stands for tetrahydrocannabinol, right? And if any of you all are on any trivia groups or you win any prizes because of that, just remember, where you found that out, right? So tetrahydrocannabinol, that's the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, okay? And so the thing about marijuana is nowadays the THC levels are a lot higher, no pun intended, a lot higher in the marijuana now than you would have seen maybe in the 60s or 70s, right? So what does that mean? So when you're looking at how THC really affects the brain, and more specifically the adolescent brain, it really can affect the development of the brain in the sense that you're adding a substance there. There are different chemicals firing off in the brain, and it can become a little more dependent on that substance than maybe an adult brain that's fully developed, right? In addition to that, it can affect things like IQ scores. There are studies that are out there that show that those who start smoking marijuana in their teens are likely to have an IQ drop of 8 to 10 points, right? And that's compared to maybe those who have been smoking in their adulthood, right? But the bottom line there is that it's THC that's really affecting the brain. And so dabbing is a more concentrated version of THC. So you already have the potent THC in the plants now, in marijuana plants now, but now you're extracting just the THC and utilizing that, right? And so one of the things that's associated with using marijuana is psychosis. It's a stimulant, so it increases your heart rate. There can be blacking out, some hallucinations that are associated with it, extreme paranoia. There could be violent home explosions due to the use of butane when you're dabbing. So things like that, when you kind of weigh that out, and I like to spend a little bit more time on the mental illness aspect of that, right? So if you're talking about psychosis and hallucinations, those are really referring to different mental illnesses, right? And so when you're looking at psychosis, that's just a break from reality. It's just difficult for someone to really know what's real and what's not, okay? And sometimes it can be seen as a person who may be out of it, or they may look very frightened of you, or they may be very defensive in the sense that they are defending themselves from you because they're scared, right? It could look a lot of different ways there. But then when you look at hallucinations, an easy way to remember that it's anything dealing with the senses, and seeing, hearing, anything else with the senses, something that's not there, right? A lot of times auditory hallucinations, so hearing, and visual hallucinations, seeing, are the two more common ones that are associated with a side effect as far as when you're talking about having a hallucination, right? So seeing or hearing something that's not there. Now, when you're looking at that, it's not necessarily saying that it's going to cause a mental illness. However, if there is something that is maybe an underlying gene there, it can be awakened a lot sooner, right? Now, a lot of people kind of hone in on this portion here, and the effect of THC on the brain is hallucinations. Hallucinations is associated with that. So even if you don't have a history of mental illness, or maybe mental illness doesn't run in your family, and maybe you didn't even have that underlying gene that could be awakened, that could wake up there, it is something that is associated with the use of THC, right? So maybe hallucinating and definitely being paranoid, right? And so when you're looking at that as a whole, you're looking at having that higher THC, the method of utilizing a more concentrated form of THC, and then adding all of the side effects to it, right? So when you add all of that up, I'm hoping that one of the things that you take from this training, or from this series here that MYLA put together, is that your health is far too valuable to let it go up in smoke or aerosol, right? Pun intended. So on that next slide here, we're going to look at some ways that you can actually have a conversation about some of these things. So, outside of coming to an event like this, or outside of maybe having a conversation, I'm not sure if you all have open conversations with your parents. Some may not. It all depends on what type of relationship you have with your parents, but it may be worth giving it a try, even if it's not, excuse me. Well, I now know it's 4:30. My apologies there. So it may be worth giving it an opportunity to have a conversation with your parents and some of your peers, because the things that you talk about, and the more you talk about it, the more you'll become aware that these things aren't just common, right? You can look at your environment, the reputation your schools may have, the reputation certain groups of people in your schools may have, and you would probably be surprised at how different the reputation they've built up is than their life, right? So when you're having that conversation, here's the thing. Parents have the power to influence your decisions as teens, right? And some of you all may be like, no, I live my own life, right? And some of you may be in agreement, but there's this saying, birds of a feather flock together. There is a family influence, right? And so many parents don't talk to their kids about drugs or addiction or smoking or drinking, but those who do, the results are generally positive, right? Now, some of you all may be thinking, if I talk to my parents about any of this, they would flip out, right? Like they don't want to talk about it. They may be uncomfortable with it. They may not even know too much about it. Hey, you never know what will actually happen until it's actually done, right? And so if you have that first conversation, you may be pleasantly surprised that they're actually open to talking to you about some of these substances here, right? As I had already mentioned, you all are more health savvy. And so one of the things that you can do here is just learn about e-cigarettes and regular cigarettes, right? Do some more research on it. I know you all have been inundated and flooded with a lot of information on why you shouldn't smoke. There are anti-smoking commercials. You don't have to go too far to find one, right? But why don't you study a little more or learn a little bit more about the commonality between marketing for cigarettes and marketing for e-cigarettes, right? And you may find that a lot of them are very, very similar. And I'm talking maybe just like a couple of different color changes on the same exact poster, right? So another thing is to learn more about the uncertainty of e-cigarette safety and about the definite possibility of addiction to nicotine that goes along with vaping, right? If you're looking up some more things, know the seriousness of vaping as a decision to not make on a whim, right? But with potential consequences of lifelong problems. It's not just oh, sure, I'll try it, why not, right? It's how much are you risking by trying it the first time? And it's something that you could think about, right? And then, of course, be the message. So if you don't want I don't know if you all have any younger siblings in your life or any of your peers, if you don't want any of them to vape, then you shouldn't be doing it either, right? It's there's this saying that a lot of people who are doing something they probably can't necessarily justify, they say, do as I say and not what I do, right? So that alone kind of gives you the opportunity to question some of what they're doing, right? So if you're going to be talking about how you shouldn't be doing something, or maybe talking about the dangers of it, then you shouldn't be doing it either, right? All right, so I'm going to throw it on over to Mr. Southers here, and he'll take it away from there.
All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Some really great questions that we've seen in the chat box. I was about to try to answer another one, and Ms. Crumrine brought up the research, and really that's an important thing because look at the research yourself, do the homework for yourself, because it takes more than one study to find conclusive information. I'm going to start by talking about 420, which I'm sure most of you may know, or those of you who don't know, it's National Stoner Day. And at 420, which is coming up on April the 20th, at exactly 420, that's the day that a lot of people get together and they smoke marijuana. And I think somebody made a comment that, hey, I shouldn't not use marijuana just because I think it has something to do with my IQ. Well, your lungs are made for oxygen. And oxygen alone, anytime you put smoke, and it doesn't matter if it's marijuana smoke or cigarette smoke, if you put smoke in your lungs, you can do damage. And I usually ask teens this questions. I know Ms. Crumrine does this as well, but what's one thing money can't buy? And you don't have to answer the question, but one big thing that people don't think of sometimes is health. If
Money
you
can
want to eat
absolutely buy that. Money can
Pardon?
absolutely buy health. It can't.
Eliana, we have a Q&A portion after this, so can we please wait until the Q&A?
Well,
Sorry.
I'm going to say that my mother was not able to buy her health, and she ended up with breast cancer, not because she smoked, but because my dad smoked and she inhaled the secondhand smoke. And she started with breast cancer. They removed both breasts. She went through chemotherapy, which is worse than radiation. Then she went to radiation. She went back. She was in remission for a while, but then it came back. And to have to go through that, and yes, some people survive, but many people don't survive. Who wants to be sick your whole life because you made a choice to do something that you shouldn't do? And I can't make that call for you, but I would say really think about what you're doing with your body, because you only get one body. And if you do something that's harmful to your body, you can't get that back. And anyway, so we're always free to make the choice, but we're not free with the consequences. And I know some people that smoked their entire lives and they were in their 80s and they still smoked and they had no repercussions. But then I know their husband got esophageal cancer and he ended up dying, although he didn't actually smoke. So like Ms. Crumrine said, the vaping part is different and there's not as much research on it. But what I've learned so far is enough to make me want to stay away from it. I mean, why do something that might cause harm when you don't have to? So there are the resources here, just give you some information for, there's the Quit Now Virginia, which is a great resource to quit smoking. They provide one-on-one immediate support. There are other things on the market like nicotine gum and nicotine gels and creams, things like that, that are free of charge. Sometimes you do have to be 18 for them to give it to you for free, but if you call the number, sometimes they do offer it for free depending on the time frame and I guess grants and that kind of thing. There's another download called This Is Quitting. It's a free mobile app. It's specifically for young people, so it's from the Truth Initiative. That's a really good one too. If you just Google teen quitting apps for vaping, there are a lot of things out there. It's called Become an X is another one. This Is Quitting is a great one, again, designed for young people. Anything that, if you have any questions for me, you're certainly welcome to call or we can give you an email. And the only thing I can say is research, find the research out for yourself. Before you put anything in your body, know what it is that you're putting in your body, know the different chemicals that are in marijuana, know the different chemicals that are in tobacco, and make your decision based on not what somebody else tells you, not what me or Ms. Crumrine or even the vaping things, but we challenge you to do the homework for yourself. Find out for yourself what those chemicals can do to you and make your choices based on what you learn. I know that, some people, they would never smoke marijuana, but they would eat marijuana. Again, there's truly a difference, and you certainly want to look at the research. If you have projects for school, you might want to do something on vaping or smoking marijuana or dabbing or smoking alcohol. Any of those things would make really good resources. The one thing I challenge every young person on here is to, I can tell you that the older I get, the less I think teenagers listen to me, but they will listen to you. They will listen to their peers. So if you learn something and you find out something that you share with someone else, it will definitely make a difference and you will impact other people. I know a lot of college kids that think the hookah bars are really nice. If you do the studies of hookah bars, you will find out how totally dangerous those hookah bars are, and probably the best thing you can do is stay away from those places. tobacco, nicotine takes your money, your looks, your health, and it is for tobacco and nicotine, it is the only drug that I can't say anything positive about. There's nothing in my mind and the research that I've looked at that does any good for anyone. So some other programs that we do, I'm with, of course, Patricia and I are both with the Department of Human Services, Behavioral Health, Wellness, and Prevention Services. We offer lots of other things besides drug education. I know Miss Patricia does adverse childhood experiences. That will, anyone that has traumatic experience in a person's life in their childhood, that's pretty much what that training is about. I do the applied suicide intervention skills. That's for intervening with somebody who's thinking about suicide. That particular training, along with Safe Talk, has to be done in person. It is open to teenagers. I think you have to be at least 16, but it's an all-day training for that particular intervention. Safe Talk is a little bit shorter. It's a 4-hour training, and it's more realizing that somebody's thinking about suicide and getting them to the right person to help. We do a lot of community drug educations, resource booths. I'm going to Virginia Wesleyan tomorrow. We do TCC. You might see us at some of the other colleges and universities in the area. We do drug education presentations, HIV education and testing. If you're sexually active, then of course you need to know about STDs and some other things that are out there. Our unit discusses that as well. We talk about medication storage and disposal, just making sure that you lock up prescription drugs and why it can be very dangerous to take somebody else's prescription drug. Mental health first aid, revive classes, and all the classes that we offer are free of charge. They're open to anyone. Many times, if they're virtual classes, we will put them on Eventbrite, and people can sign up if they want to. And we always appreciate it when teenagers are part of the group because, the perspective that young people give is certainly different from an older person, and we appreciate the different perspectives. No one here can make any decisions for you. You have to decide for yourself what those decisions are for your body, for your health. I have a nephew that I've been talking, don't smoke for years, and he's vaping now. So, again, he's an adult and it's now his decision, and whatever happens with that decision will be a consequence that he may have to deal with later in life. And what I've seen with tobacco products is that it's not something that gets you early in life, it's something that gets you later in life, but we want you to be healthy for as long as you can be healthy, and find other ways to kind of get your high on life rather than those ways coming from drug products such as nicotine. So again, I appreciate your time today. I'm going to turn it back over, and thank you very much. Be aware of 420 that's coming up, and know that, talk to your friends about, your research that you've done about different drugs as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Patricia. So we're gonna go ahead and open the Q&A part of our session. We are running a little bit behind the schedule, so it won't be as long as it is usually. But if you have any question, please raise your hand or write in the chat, and we will be happy to answer those questions. Do we have any questions? Leave a couple more seconds in case some of you are writing in the chat.
While they're writing in the chat, I just want to, somebody said it doesn't make a very good case for the IQ. I would just say, look at the other studies for that as well. Maybe 1 or 2 points is, I don't know how many IQ points you have, but I'm going to keep whatever I have. And like I say, the studies were related to the adolescent brain, And individuals who started smoking marijuana as an adult did not have any decreases in IQs. It was only related to the teen brain.
Goodness, I don't see any questions, so we're just gonna go ahead and go with our next activity. This activity, as you know, in all our sessions, we have 2 or 3 winners for gift cards. So today we're gonna be playing Kahoot, and you're gonna find some questions for that part of the first and second session as well. So please join to kahoot.com. The game pin is 7522729. If you want to try to get some of those gift cards for today's session. And Tristan just wrote the code in the chat in case you want to just copy and paste. Thank you, Tristan. Some music. There you go. Wait a couple more seconds in case somebody else wants to join. You can join through your phone, you can join through your computer. And Tristan or Victoria, they will be reading the questions. So just in case you're playing from your phone and you cannot really see what the question is. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start.
All right, what chemical is highly addictive and impairs brain development?
Nicotine. That was something we learned in the first session. Good job, Sarah.
How many times does it take for vaping to cause lung and mouth damage?
The amount of vape can cause damage. Yes. Okay.
Vaping can lead to a loss of concentration and memory. True or false?
It is true.
What is peer pressure?
So something we talked about in the second session. All of the above.
What is positive peer pressure?
influence someone to engage in an activity that has beneficial consequences. That's right. It's changing.
How to reject negative peer pressure.
Off. Okay, I think we have 2 more questions.
What are some symptoms of vaping?
The above. Good job. Okay, now the final question.
Ways to avoid vaping or to quit vaping.
Answer, so let's see the results. Okay, so let's see the winners. Jumana, Eliana, and Sarah. Okay, congratulations, guys. Okay, so while everybody fills out the survey, Tristan and Victoria are going to talk about MYLA, how you can join the group if you're interested.
So, as you know, we are members of MYLA, and if you're interested, you can visit our website, which is linked right there for more information. And what you will gain as a member of MYLA, you will have your voice heard, you will learn how to be an effective leader, feel valued as a member of our community, make a difference in the lives of others, network with other community leaders, learn more about your community, and gain the knowledge of community partnerships and their benefits.
Okay, and some reminders. Thank you, Tristan. Tristan posted the link in the chat in case you want to go read more about MYLA. So here we have our contact information, our email, our Instagram, and also the email of the guest speakers, so you can contact them in case you have any questions. And I just wanted to remind you that we have our Run Walk, that is the final event for Be Smart Don't Starve, on May 22nd at Mount Rushmore. So there we're going to have the registration and t-shirt pickup. Each one of you is going to receive a t-shirt. We're going to do a run walk around the park, and you will get the certificate of completion and attendance of Be Smart Don't Starve, a gift back, and of course your community service hours letter. Please, I remind you that you need to attend the 3 sessions in order to get the letter for community service hours. So if you miss the other 2 sessions, just please let me know, write in the chat or send me an email to myla@vvgov.com, and I can send you the recording and the survey for those 2 sessions, okay? And please make sure that you check your emails, and as that's where you're gonna find all the information for the certificate pickup and the run walk. Thank you so much for being here today.